Hey everybody, this is James back at What's That in the Sky with Sam Hofman again, having a good sit down. We're going to try this again because obviously I screwed up the first recording, so we're going to do this one more time.
Yeah, hi, welcome to version 2 of this show. Good morning everybody out there in YouTube and Facebook land, and I hope this comes out sound-wise because we're trying a little new technology, and me and my old computers, my Stone Age computer skills, and we're trying to get together so we can help everybody get on the same page. And you're looking at a picture I got this morning from Sierra Lord and in Washington State, and I believe this is right off the coast of Washington State. And we're looking at the bottom of Attu, and I believe Nepesity behind that because it's currently on the left-hand side of the sun. And we know for the last, 2 weeks or so that Attu has been moving from what used to be on the right-hand side and is now moving over to our left in a over-the-top of us view, literally like Attu is coming up from behind us nowadays. And it's a little bit of a screwy thing. It's really hard to keep the orientation of how these things are working going straight in our head, especially since recently there's been a whole bunch of really fast changes. We're moving in a manner that's much faster than any of the earlier transitions of the last few years. I'd like to point out that the Nibiru planets have been within proximity of Earth many times, and they pass by Earth very close passes, at least 3 to 4 times since the onset of Nibiru in 2012 and the actual original arrival of the beginning planets in 2010. Now, we're looking at an open core cloud here at the bottom. That is a base cloud scenario where I suggested, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we've got some hand drawings of the base clouds of the Nibiru 6 and the 7th one, of course, 7th one we don't have because that's Nibiru, which is the large, massive body gas giant behind the 2 suns. And in our first show, I spent a long time describing that, and I'm not sure if I want to go there again yet or not. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So we're looking at the bottom of incoming Attu. Now, everybody across the planet is seeing this. They're seeing this in Australia. They're seeing it in Europe. But currently, the close pass is going over the North American continent. And that's been a lot of the weather that they're seeing on the East Coast and from Texas all the way on up through Minnesota over the last few days, and the tornadoes and everything. And I really need to stress, and this is part of why we're doing this today, we want to give everybody a heads up and say there's some really serious weather coming. Now, hopefully tonight and everything, there won't be a lot of people that lose their homes and deaths or anything like that. But that's what we've seen the last couple of days. And we've seen that they're not telling us the truth on the Fujita scale. They're not telling us the truth on these wind speeds. And these tornadoes that are going through are drawn-out tornadoes. They're not the short standard tornado that can last anywhere from 30 seconds to, up most of a half hour or so, because most tornadoes don't last that long. And what's going across the skies here is this event underneath the passing planets. The wake eddy is affecting our atmosphere and dragging all of this crap through and past us. And we've had numerous examples of evidence that show that this is, yes, true, it is following through with that which we are seeing. So it has to be what it is. And we're getting proof, because we're not trying to guess here. We're trying to make sure that we know what the heck we're talking about. And we're not trying to get membership and cause a bunch of hype and fear, but damn it, we really need to pay attention to this because this is really serious. So I'm going to move over to the next picture right away here, and we'll go from here. All right, we've got the majorly massive, momentous, bubbly clouds. A lot of people say, well, this is just a storm that's got hail. Well, no, these are giant storms. And this is the bottom of Attu. And if you look off in the distance where I've got the pointer going here, we've got the open, illuminated pole. Even though the sun is down, it's illuminating on the bottom of Nepesity. And now we've seen this illuminated open pole for many years, so we know that this is the illuminated Nepesity. All right, moving to the next picture. Here is what we've been noticing in the last few weeks is a facial illumination of the planets, because this is, of course, it's probably a sunset picture, but this area is being illuminated, and we see the object cluster group coming in here on the side, and we've got right here this little white object in the circle is the moon of Attu. Now, if you look here, you can see the side of Attu coming in, and this is a facial illumination of this group of clouds, and it's entirely possible that this right there is Uri. What were you saying?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, I just heard something. I thought maybe. Okay, so we're seeing the evidence that the planets are passing us. Now, prior to this, we only saw the back side of them, so we're seeing only the dark sides of the planets, and we would only see their illumination visible in the sunset scenarios where we would see the dark object on either side of the sun with cut-off refractions and flares, etc. But now, within the last 2 weeks or so, they're passing, or Earth is transitioning in a hard banking turn. So the angle of the sunlight is now shining on the face of these planets, and as we turn, we get to see them. And so now the beginning of the great show of Nibiru passing planets is now really up and kicking, especially for those new folks out there. We've been watching this group of planets, and I'm not guessing here because we've had member pictures coming from around the world for over 7 years. We've had upward of 1 million pictures, 1 million real captures, and I'm not talking just clouds that we think is this and we think is that. We've got absolute pictures with no clouds whatsoever, no flares whatsoever, and time after time matching pictures of the planets getting closer and closer and closer. And we've stockpiled a good portion of these pictures, but a good portion over time has also been lost because I've had to replace 10 computers. And sadly, I don't have a bunch of money to shell out for retrieving those photos from the hard drives. And some of the hard drives are actually blank and dead and killed because I've been hacked over and over again. Anyway, enough of the complaining. Moving on to the next picture.
Okay.
All right. Here is another example of the object cluster group coming down at its hard angle, this notable shadowing between object here, object there, and the vertical drag-off cloud of Attu's moon. Now, Attu's moon has been seen doing this in numerous pictures going back 3, 4, 5 years, where it's doing an ion drag-off off the face of the side of Attu. And for the longest time, we just thought it was an ion drag-off cloud. But then within recent pictures here in the last 2 or 3 days, we've seen a close-up of the moon where it's wrapped encased in clouds. And it's real close. And then when I see this picture in Illinois, and then I see the same darn cloud in Washington State, and then I see the same darn cloud in Scotland, you know, and stuff like that, then we know that this is not just a cloud, but we know that the same thing is something higher up at the higher atmosphere. And I'd like to give a shout out to all of those people out there whose pictures we are using. Jennifer Hall in Australia, Rose in Florida, and Jen in Florida. And I'm not mentioning your last names because I want to give you guys a little bit of privacy until you tell me I'm allowed to. And you can PM me and let me know about that. But without everybody's pictures coming in, I would not be able to do this. I stopped taking pictures because I've got issues with electronic devices because I zap them and I short them out and they're never usable again. But and then we can go into that some other day. But we know from many, many picture sources that these are real. We're not guessing. We're not going, oh, hey, I wonder what this is, or hey, I wonder what that is. And we're not trying to sell you T-shirts, and we're not trying to get you to come join our channel or steal your site members or anything like that and charge fees and make a bunch of money off of guesses and hype. What we're doing is comparative science, where when you've got all these reporters around the world sending in pictures of what they've captured each day, we have an opportunity to compare all these pictures that isn't going on some of the other shows like WSO or whatever, or Scott's or you know. And there's a lot of good reporters out there, but most of them haven't even got the slightest clue what the hell they're talking about. And I wish everybody would really just try to get on the same page and stay factual. The planets are here. They've been here. We're getting numerous pictures of them. We know what the bottoms look like. We know what the sides look like. We know their order. We know their placement daily. Now, granted, recently it's been transitioning quite quickly, so it's really a hard thing for you to say, well, yeah, I'll go outside and look up to the northeast and you'll see this. Whereas before we used to be able to do that. Now they're moving so fast that you basically have to go out there and start identifying for yourself. Take a pair of great black sunglasses, go outside. Don't try to use welding glasses because it's going to be too dark. You won't be able to see what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah, it makes everything the same
dark,
color.
Excuse me?
It makes everything the same color.
Right. When you see this dark in the sky, that's a planet, not this blue stuff down here at the bottom. If you go back in the movies, you know, filmed in the 70s and the 80s, our sky is nothing but this light blue everywhere you look. And you'll never see these dark major shadows. Now, on TV commercials, medicine commercials, insurance company commercials, a good one is the one where they're always showing the Statue of Liberty. If you look in those backgrounds of the sky of commercials, you will now see the passing planets because they've been here since roughly 2010, 2012, when Nibiru was full on right over the top of us, and nobody got it. And I'm really sorry that you guys have missed a good portion of the show. But these planets are here. We know what they look like. We know where they are. And it's really time for everybody to get on board and start following this, because if you're out there and you're questioning about the Nibiru system, or if you're wondering about Nemesis, or if you're wondering about the red dwarf star.
Brown dwarf star.
There is no red dwarf star. The red dwarf is a gas giant. It's a central electron cluster in the middle of our solar system that holds the two stars, because we live in a binary solar system. Binary meaning two, bi.
And middle not meaning Jupiter, middle meaning the sun.
Yeah, and The other sun that arrived roughly around, it actually arrived after Nibiru, because Nibiru was pretty much one of the last. We came up from behind them, and then they came up from underneath. It's really hard to describe how this all worked out. But when the second sun joined with our sun, there was all the backblow CMEs in 2012, and you can directly go back and look that stuff up. The standard red of Nibiru group is larger than our yellow dwarf Sol. Now, you can look that up in Genesis, and the Bible discusses that, where the smaller sun actually took over priority and care of Mother Earth and humans and inhabitants. However, it was written. I haven't read it in years, but anyway. We have two suns. The two suns are joined. They're in proximity to each other. We believe, as of today, we're seeing some evidence of backblow CMEs again, and that to me tells me that's a possibility of sun separation, because I've been wondering when these things are going to separate, because we have no idea how long the Nibiru group is going to be here. We don't know if it's going to be here for 5 years or 7 years or 20 years, and we could be affected by these planets for the next 10 years. We don't know. And only once we see them leave and become fully facially illuminated, if that's what happens, then will we know that they're leaving. And of course,
if we last that long.
Excuse me, I have a little trouble hearing you through the phone.
I said, if we last that long.
Yeah, granted, if technology lasts that long, we could be sitting in our yard still watching it, but we can't share that information if the electrical grid goes down, et cetera, et cetera. And people need to focus that this storm that we're talking about that's coming in across literally from Louisiana all the way up to Minnesota, and then last night there were hurricane force winds literally, and above going over the middle of the eastern seaboard from Illinois on. These are close passing planets. They're doing a drag off. They're causing extreme weather. We're being lied to about the wind speeds and the Puget scale height, because it's very visible in the rubble and the debris that they're showing. And these are huge tornadoes. These aren't F2s. No way. These things are F3s and F5s. And I mean, we're seeing stuff, and we're seeing base clouds of the planets which match old information. And we got quite a few videos, a couple posted on my Montana Skywatcher this morning, from the purple. And now people in Texas have seen nothing but purple skies for the last week. Well, that is because Atu is right there. It's being illuminated, and the illumination colors of the sky are direct representation of the facial illumination off of these colored planets. Now, Atu is a gas giant, and it's purple, purple, purple. You can't argue with it. And in some cases, it's deep, deep blue. And the size has been matched and visible in numerous shots. So again, I wanted to talk about the 45-degree, or how many degree angle this is, the object cluster group. This is the ion dragging off cloud of Atu's moon, and I believe this dark area back here is Atu. Next picture. This is Atu, and we have to thank Mr. S for his picture. And we do these pictures, it's copyrighted, and for his protection, and we appreciate his picture. We borrow these for a scientific comparison. This is for learning. I'm not trying to sell this in any way. I'm not selling you T-shirts. I'm not asking for membership. Neither is Jamie. We're doing this for a scientific comparison. Okay. Now, what we're looking at is an electrical discharge. If you see here, there's this circular little bolt thing going on here from our white friend, the object cluster group. It electrically discharges off the other planets. We've been watching it for 3 or 4 years. Some of the original pictures where it was discharging off the bottom of Saru. Now, it's entirely likely that Atu and the other planets were included in that shot, but they were so small back then that we couldn't tell they were just an object that the lightning bolt went around. And here's another example of it. Now, the purple lightning started out only about 10 years ago. You've never seen purple lightning prior to that, and you can look that up, too. The purple lightning is the push. The planets do not collide. They both have a positively charged internal electrical charge, and like charged objects will just discharge off each other and push each other away. And this is what you're seeing the example of, is the proximity where it's coming in close to Earth, and I'm sure probably somewhere back off in the distance to the left here, it probably touches Earth, which is pushing the whole entire planet away. And because they don't want to crash into each other. And then, of course, the object cluster group being an electron group in itself is electrically probably the diode or the receptor that's causing a good portion of this electrical event. But we live in an electrical universe. We do not live in a gravitational universe. Einstein was wrong. I proved that years ago back in a paper when I wrote my paper about the binary solar system. And back then, nobody even thought that. But under my understanding of subatomic chemistry and how the universe had to work, because I never believed in the unification theory issue between Einstein and the Heisenberg group and all of that. And that was them just saying, well, we can't figure it out, but we want to still get a paycheck. So they came up with this paper and they all signed it. And that was basically saying that because the experiments were being watched by us, that we were changing the outcome. And that was just it's like ghosts exists and fairy tale and ponies and My Little Pony and all that other crap. But yet they signed this paper, and so they could retain their jobs because nobody wanted them to know that they didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And when the government took my paper and forced me into a 30-year non-disclosure agreement, I couldn't discuss this. I could basically change physics today if they would follow my practices. But back then in the 80s, that was still during the Cold War, and they did not want the Russians to know. And I got interviewed for a job after turning this paper in. I came home one day and found my parents sitting having coffee with an NSA officer and an FBI officer, black dress and the tie, and the federal government car parked outside my house and everything. I about had a coronary. And they forced me into a 30-year non-disclosure agreement before they would even offer me the job. Well, so I signed it thinking, okay, I need to find out what they want. And come to find out, I was being recruited for what's now declassified, so I can actually discuss this sort of, was for the Far-Seeing Project. And that is remote viewing, and I was interviewed by Ed Games himself personally. And I stuck along with the program long enough to see what was going on and how to do it. And my group of people discovered something that when we were remote viewing, that there was more to what we were looking at. And I'm getting a little more in depth than I did the last time that we had this same talk. We found that there was more here than us. We found ET out there. We discovered through our far-seeing that there were entities. And we know, because I personally met Greys, and I've met a Pleiadian, and I'm talking face-to-face. I'm not talking channeling or any of this crazy stuff. And I've met a Draco. So we know that ET is real. It's just as real as you can, the guy standing here at the bus stop. And there's thousands of races out there. We've been lied to for thousands of years. This is all a project in order to keep us doing what we're doing. And for those of you that are new to this and don't know, you need to do a little more homework, because it's all based on a series of commodities that Earth provides for the larger. I got a thing going on here. Excuse me, my computer went kooky there for a second. We provide commodities for the larger other solar system, and they revisit every 3,654 years, and this is quite real. The planets are here, they have been here, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm done preaching for the moment, and if you got anything to say.
Oh, while you're doing all that, I'm just cruising through my pictures as well, showing the same sort of things, but comparisons as well.
Okay, well, I'll move to the next picture. This is a month or two old now. I tried to stick everything within February, but there are a couple examples here that are older than that for cross-reference. This is what we refer to a cutoff. This is a light cutoff. This is the base cloud of the bottom of Attu. This is the vertical drag-off cloud around its moon, and if you look up here in this dark area, that's the moon. At the time, as Attu was having the moon, it was over on one side, and then it will swing over to the other, depending on where the picture was taken, etc. One side of the planet gets a different angle than I do here in Montana, versus what they get in Hawaii, versus what they get in Japan. But anyway, this is the bubbly little cold clouds, the bottom of Attu, and it's been crossing from the right over to the left. I'm going to move over to the next picture. This is the major momentous bottom clouds. Now, people say, oh, those are just momentum clouds signifying a hailstorm. If you look at these things, these are massive. These are literally the size of a state, if you were to imagine. See, now, if you look here, this is the cumulus cloud. And, excuse me, the height of cumulus clouds goes quite a bit. And then here NASA's talking about, yeah, our clouds have lowered recently. Well, that's because this stuff's overhead pushing it down. And they don't give you that explanation. They recently talked about the planets, that they were 40 light years away, and they were saying Earth-sized planet and all that, and that doesn't make any sense what they're saying, because Earth is a small planet by planet sizes. So if they're going to tell us that there's 7 Earth-sized planets, and then they show the little comparison of all of them lined up, and they're all literally the same. Well, we know that's not the case, because gas giants are huge, and we've got little ones and big ones. And if it was real, what they're telling us, we'd see some of that. So we know that they're lying, but they're giving us a half-truth so that we can say, oh, okay, we were misinformed about the Nibiru thing, and maybe we should start looking out in space those 30 light years. So therefore, we don't step out our front door and see these passing planets. We just chalk them up as weather anomalies.
Yeah.
But when the weather anomalies match all the way around the world, and picture after picture, they're not just clouds, they're planets. So I'm moving on to the next picture. Here's another one. Now this is in Minnesota last week. This is the incoming Attu and Uri scenario that is causing all of these massive storms and ripping people's homes and throwing cars miles and miles away. This is a massive storm. And if you look dead center in the middle of this blue mess, nasty, there is, right where I'm pointing, there is Attu's moon. And as it got bigger here in the last couple of days, we've seen it really close to the horizon level and quite large. So they could also be, and I doubt it, but it could also be one of the object cluster group. But I believe that probably is Attu's moon. All right, moving. Okay, here's another one. And I believe this is over in central Canada. This is also from last week. This is Attu. And if you look, it's self-illuminated inside. There's an event going on here. Either the sun is shining on it from way, way up in space, but if you look out in the distance, it's dark, and the sun is behind the photographer. So this should be facially illuminated, but not illuminated from inside. This is a huge, huge scenario. This is causing huge, scary, spooky weather. Ask those people who no longer have a house on the East Coast today. And I got members talking to me regularly going, we have to be careful. We have to possible tornado coming. Well, this is why. These are wake eddies. As these things pass, little wake eddies stir up, and we're seeing major, major tornadoes that are way bigger than anything we've ever seen, especially this time of year. It is not tornado season, and the tornadoes do not usually go in the northern East Coast. They're usually in Tornado Alley from Oklahoma all the way to the Carolinas. That's not happening. These events are coming up out of Mexico, out of the Gulf of Mexico, and heading literally up to Minnesota, up to Illinois, up to Ohio, up to Pennsylvania. And if you look at the Pennsylvania clouds and storms they've had, I mean, these people are being trashed. And all last week, everybody was underneath purple skies in Texas. Well, those purple skies are directly from Attu. I moved pictures again, as you can see. We've seen the pull-off directional clouds. This is probably the bottom of Nepesity, because we know that Nepesity has a core base cloud with a little snorkel at the front, and it has a tendency to suck up atmosphere. And then we know that Attu is around, and if you look, there's some sort of an illumination going on over here. It's rainbow, and that could be the object cluster group pieces, which has a great deal. And if you look over here, there's this gray-black thing, and that could also be lead object, because it's got the little stripes, 1, 2, 3. And we could have Uri back here, because we see stripes back here. So what you're looking at, once you realize what the planets look like, where their location is, the size that they currently are. Are you talking again? Because I hear a little.
Oh, I was just saying what their base clouds are looking like.
Yeah, and we've got hand drawings that people can revert to, and once you study the bottom of the base clouds, you'll start to understand. This is kind of a not real definitive picture, but I'll move past it real fast here.
No worries, I'm putting up something.
Another thing, if you look right here, you can see around. You can see the base of the round object and the lines. You can see it, and it's cutting off the sun. This is one that you sent me the other day. I'll let you describe it.
Oh, I picked that up from a video that a guy was flying a drone around Lake Mead showing how empty it was, but had no idea what was actually in the video, I guess.
Yeah, and here we have another example of Attu's moon with the vertical ion drag-off cloud, and this has shown up in pictures for years. But prior to Attu getting close enough, we never knew it was a moon because it was always caught in clouds. And you can see right here is Attu, and back over here is Uri, and behind here is Nepesity, and back here is Saru. They're stacked up. And you can see with the little color variations in the line of the sky how this all works. And, excuse me, I got a cat here. And this could even be Isatum in the background, because we know Isatum is back a ways. But, of course, according to where the sun is, this barely makes any sense. But that's how it's transitioning during the day lately in ways that it's almost hard to describe, because we're in a transitionary turn, and that turn is really messing up orbit and placement in my head. And all we have to do is keep looking at the same size over and over again. And that's how I view things, is size, location, and color. And that will identify usually who and what everything is. And if you get a pair of gray-black sunglasses, go outside, you can see these things. Of course, then, you have to have a not cloudy day. But if you look outside, don't use welding glasses, because you're never going to never film through glass.
Look for the dark.
And you can go ahead and talk about what how you'd like to get pictures. I moved on. Here's a picture I got from Richard Orango yesterday, and I hope I'm pronouncing his last name properly. I apologize if I'm not. I need to learn that better. But you have to sometimes wait till somebody actually says it before you can pronounce it properly. But anyway, here's Attu. It's come in very, very close, and this could be during transition passing over the top of us from morning, and that which changes, because it doesn't run in a 24-hour cycle. It runs anywhere from 14 to an 18-hour cycle. And here is the white Z cloud that we've talked about many, many times. James' favorite Z cloud. There's actually two of them here, one Z, two Z. But this is Attu's moon again, and it's wrapped in a group of clouds. and you can see the object cluster group maybe have already passed between the moon and At2 itself, and I think that's how it's transitioning. But we've seen the moon, like I said before, we've seen the moon next to At2 for so long, but we didn't know exactly what it was. But then that cloud always showed up, and it showed up, and it showed up, and then it moved, and yet it was still the same shape. And because of that, we determined, especially on the recent close passes, that it has to be a moon of At2. Now, this is an older picture of At2 from 2015. I just moved on. And here again is that white cloud that proves to us that this has got to be the moon of At2. And it's usually the thing that does the vertical ion drag-off cloud. Now here you can see the stripes of At2. You see the base cloud, the base pole. You can see the bubbly little microclouds of the atmosphere of planet Uri, which is back here. You can see a cutoff of the sun, which is why this flare is reaching out over here, because in the cutoff, it shows a directional aim. That's obviously cutting off the bottom of this planet, and so the light is focaling and sneaking out. But if you look here on these wispies, as people start turning, oops, I did it again. I got to learn not to do that. Pardon me, I will catch up to where I was. I was trying to click those off of there, but they're messing up my sighting right now. And come on, people, stop talking to me for a minute. All right, catch up. Where were we? Yeah, I should definitely mark us. Okay, all right. Juvenil, whatever your name is, will you stop liking my stuff, please? Oh my God. Bear with me, folks, while we deal with our technical difficulties. Live and learn, live and learn. Oh, come on. I mean, all right, you like my stuff. Great, good for you. I love you too. Come on.
Yeah, well, he's got to get his 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. Well, and if they only knew, and they're going to come up on that and they're going to laugh at themselves. When they see this, and they're going to, oh, I interrupted his video. So slap yourself on the back of the hand after you see this. Thank you. Okay. Let's just hope it stays that way. Well, boy, we might have to speed this up. Anyway, move to the next picture. Here's one that we got a couple of days ago. You can see the orange atmosphere of planet Uri. And At2 is right here because it's moved over from here. And Uri is also moving. And what it actually is Earth is coming underneath these things and around like that. And back here we've got Nepesity because it's getting smaller. As we get closer to these, Nepesity gets smaller. And off in the distance would be Saru. And behind Uri is Nibiru, way back there. Now we've been seeing some some blue coming through near the sun. And we've been seeing shaft lighting again, which says that the Tool star, which is the man-made being made, because there are beings that live on Nibiru. And they have the technology they've got a little ultraviolet blue Tool star, which we've watched at Montana Skywatcher for a long time, but most people aren't into Montana Sky. I've only got 3,000 plus members there and 3,000 plus members at other sites. So we got 6,000 members, but the newbies have not seen the Tool star yet, and it's usually right in here, and you'll see this ultraviolet shaft of light. It won't be sideways or a flare or anything. It's a shaft of straight-up vertical light, and then you know that you see the Tool star. And if you're seeing on cloudy days, you're seeing blue next to the sun, that's what's shining through, is the Tool star blue. Now that is there so that their planet is always in direct alignment with the standard red sun, which is the second sun, which is larger than our dwarf yellow Sol. There are two suns around Hercubus, the main gas giant, and those hold the two stars which make up our binary solar system. Anyway, they use the Tool star so that they don't round the back of Nemesis and fall into darkness at certain orbitation. I don't know what their orbitation is, if it's a yearly or every 1,000 years or whatever, that they would go behind the planet and then turn into total darkness and just ice over. Because they're a deep ocean planet. It's a larger water-type planet, which is larger than the rock-type planet, which is what Earth is, which is what Saturn is, and what Nepesity is also a rock-type planet made up of a compound of metal and whatever. And then At2 is a small gas giant, and Uri is a large gas giant. And then Nemesis / Hercubus / Immeru is the massive gas giant that literally can take most of our solar system in its breadth. I mean, this thing is so huge, you can't even imagine. It would take 6 pictures just to get it encompassed in from one to end, if you're out in space to do so. Anyway, this is a phenomenal picture. It's showing the shadowing off onto the right-hand side. It shows you there's a planet blocking the sun. And then we've got the other blue on the other side, and that is probably Nepesity and Sarah and Uri, and I've already described that, and I'm trying to not regress here, but this is direct evidence that this round right here is a planet. You cannot argue with that. Anyway, I'm moving to the next picture. This is what they have been seeing in Texas, and if you you look here, there's four little objects here, and that's the object cluster group coming in, around, below, majorly, very, very close, A2. And this purple sky is from the planet. If you look off in the distance here, you see the yellow illumination of the Nepacity base cloud, and that matches what we saw in a picture prior to that, where A2's here, and then all of a sudden we're seeing the focal illumination of the bottom of Nepacity. All right, moving on. All right, here's a picture from Montana, and John Atkinson, I believe Tanya took this. And this is down south of me here in Stevensville, and we've seen, I'm catching myself saying we've seen A2 up very, very close, and this is A2, and if you look, there's her little moon right over here, and drag off cloud going that direction. And the close passes is what's going on. This was like a week ago, and I believe they pass us, and then they come in really close over the Denver area, and I think this was taken about when they were passing over the Denver area still. And then it went to Texas 2 days later, and now it's messing with Illinois and the East Coast as of another day or two gone past. And I cannot express enough, this is serious. We really need to pay attention. These storms are going to be coming in. I think they're going to get worse. And I can't even say I think. I'm pretty sure I know they're going to get worse. Anyway, moving on. I'm trying to speed up this show, I guess, compared to the last one that we recorded that ended up in the can. Here we have punch clouds. And yes, punch clouds are punch clouds, but what is punching? And that is a large object above A2. This is A2's moon, punching in and hopping and skipping over the atmosphere as they're coming in and buffering off of our ionosphere, which goes up 300 miles. And here you have the drag-off cloud of the object cluster group, which is heading that direction. And obviously this is a side view from what I get usually, so depending on wherever this was taken. Now, this could be in obviously this is a snow-rich environment. This could be coming from Sweden or Scandinavia or something like that, or Montana or Minnesota. But we got snow, and this is a recent picture that I got literally within the last 2 days. So, and then of course we've got the illumination of this rosation/rainbow, and that is the dust debris that's involved in this group. And I have to say, you can look at this and say, oh, the guy's full of beans, but when clouds match and planet groups match, and they match and match and match from one country to the next country to the next country, they're not just clouds. These are things that are way above us. And there's clouds in space. It's not just chemtrails. There are clouds reactions between the planets because they've got accelerated ions. Ion bleed off where a larger body will pull the ionization effect from another smaller planet. And we've seen where the streetlights and stuff are leaping to the sky, and everybody thinks, oh, it's a cool picture. But actually, that's the ionized particles being torn away from our planet up to the other planets. And when they're directly overhead, that's why we've got the Aurora Borealis is acting all weird. We're seeing these ion poles where the lights are going straight up into the sky, up into the heavens like we've never ever seen before. And that is direct proof that these are overhead, very, very close proximity passing planets. Okay, I'm moving on. Here is a picture, and I put this, it's a little older, it's like a month or two old, but I'm putting this in here because I want you to look at the red. The red is a direct refraction off the illumination of Isatum. Now, it could even be right here, I'm not sure, but it's probably below the horizon because we've seen Isatum slightly over the sun, and it's yellow moon, which is putting off the split tail. It's not Nibiru. Nibiru is not red. It doesn't have a winged planet. That's an internet lie that's been carried over since the beginning of all of this. And if you look at the purple up in the sky here, that shows you that A2 is right here. Now, the bubbly overall clouds are in effect from Uri as well, being that it's such a large gas giant, it freezes that whole atmosphere area around it, and that's why you're seeing this large cloud bank of tiny, tiny little atmospheric thing. And none of this is in our atmosphere. These are the atmospheres of the planets above us. If you notice our little ion clouds and cumulus nimbus over here off in the distance. And there again, back to what NASA released, that our atmosphere is lower. That's because there's so much stuff over the top of us. Anyway, next picture. This is, again, from last week. This is the bubbly, very, very dangerous, momentous bottom of A2, and this is believed to be the snorkel cloud bottom of Uri. Now, Uri could be this white illuminated area back here because the sun would be shining through between these planets, and this area is lit because this is probably the back of Uri. And you pointed out earlier that this illumination here over in the left-hand side on the bottom could be the illuminated yellow moon of Isatum. And if you look, you could see, because the size does fit what Isatum would be off in the distance. And this it's yellow illuminated or lower illuminated moon showing from this refracted area. These storms are violent. They're huge. They're ultra fantastic, and people have to focus on this. I really think it's going to get worse. Next picture. Here's another picture. This is in Canada, the same week. There we see again, there is the same round of the bottom of Attu, possible moon in here someplace, could be here, could be over there. Here we see the round of Uri, we see Nepesity, we see Saturn, and it's entirely possible we see all the way back here, we see Nibiru, because they do stack up in lines like that, and the transition moves. And it's not so much them moving, although they are in a spiral. We are moving underneath them, and we're rotating. So it's really a hard call half the time to say what orbit is what. All right, I'm going to get through this a little quicker today. All right, here's another example of an overhead passing planet. And now we see the light of the sun is someplace. Let me see if I can get any shadowing off this truck here anywhere. It's a Texas truck, and it's dog. Anyway, this is the object cluster group. It's lower than the planets, therefore it's red and illuminated. But we're seeing the blue illumination of the face of the planet all the way up through here. That's illuminated Attu and Uri. And of course we know that because the object cluster group is here, and we see Attu here, we see Uri there. You can't argue with these light effects. They're proving time after time after time that this is correct. And it's not just lights in the sky. Here's another example of it. Here's the moon of Attu. Here's Attu. Here's the drag-off clouds. Here's the vertical pull-off ion drag-off cloud. Here's object cluster group coming in again. This is somewhere here in Montana, I believe. These look like Montana. It's going to be Bozeman or something like that. And whoever his picture is, thank you very much. We love it. I can't thank you enough because you guys are the ones that make it work.
I think that was from Chang Eileen.
Oh, okay, but it's this is definitely Montana town. I don't know which one. It could even be Missoula. I mean, look, we got logs going out here.
Yeah.
And if that's a Lucky Lowe's, one of the casinos here in Montana, or not.
That might have been a reply on Chang's. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Anyway, I believe it's a Montana-based picture, but this is, you can see that, we get a really good view up here, and sea level has a great deal to do with it. We've noticed that at 5,000 feet, you can see the planets a hell of a lot better than you can at sea level, because at sea level you got so much pollution and dust and debris and stuff and volcanic ash and everything in the air that you don't get these dark outlines that show that this is a planet. And if you get out there and you learn the base clouds and you learn what to look for, you can see these things for yourself. And when you do, your jaw's going to drop and you're going to stand there and go, oh my God, Sam and James are right. And now I brought James on board because he was in agreement and he found me through watching my videos, and you can tell that story if you'd like.
Just through WSO.
Yeah, well, we don't want to promote them, but
yeah, I know.
We got nothing against them, except that they're misleading everybody. And we spent 6 months trying to get rid of that fake sun thing.
Yeah,
a micro panel up in space. You know,
that'll never go away.
No, I'm sure we're gonna wear that one forever and step in it. But to my knowledge, and we would have seen some sort of effect in the last 7 years if this was actually true, rather than some cross-focused illumination of something like a piece of dust on somebody's lens. And I deal in facts, and I'm sorry, I can't take dust illuminations very well. They just don't do much for me. I have to have good pictures. Anyway.
Well, so when they say fake sun, they're talking about a hexagon or a square, and it's only the cutoffs of the other planets in the sky from our viewpoint making those shapes, cutting off the sun, making the strange looking shapes in the sky that make the sun square or hexagonal or anything else like that.
Yeah, yesterday I got some pictures and I shared them with you, but of a bow tie shape.
Yeah, there's bow ties, bells. I mean,
cut off illumination, and I still have to stare at that for probably another 2 or 3 days before I actually understand what the heck is even going on with that, because that's a new one I've never seen before. And sometimes you got to look at these things and you got to grill your own brain, like how could that work with the light? And you have to take lighting into account.
Yeah, because it's bright.
You patched out again on me.
Yeah, because the sun is very bright, and it pushes past these planets and around them, which creates, the focal flaring of the massive illuminations that are basically mirrors, letting light through.
One of our newest members, Daniel, was just talking to me a little while ago, and he was saying, what's this and how's that working? And how come during the eclipse we didn't see the planets? Well, that which NASA tells you is the moon eclipsing the sun is not.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a purple eclipse the other day on many, many pictures, and that's Attu crossing the sun and eclipsing directly in front of our view. And people automatically assume that, oh, it's the moon that's doing the eclipse. Well, I'm sorry. Go back to your old lunar eclipse pictures from the 80s and 90s, and then compare the size of the object that is in front of the sun and the size of what the eclipse is versus, and you will see that the moon eclipse and these planetary eclipses are two totally different critters. It's a different story, and you have to have knowledge of what was happening prior to the passing planets, prior to 2010, prior to 2012. Because if you haven't studied the sky, you're going to look up there and you're going to think all this stuff is normal, and it's not.
Yeah.
You know, I've been studying the sky all my life, but then I've known about the existence of the Nibiru system and the two suns for almost 38 years. You know, I've been told stuff, and I went to work, and you know, I've been in deep underground military bases and stuff I can't talk about at Langley, and man, there are times that I just would love to have somebody across the table where I could tell them to their face, because I don't dare do it over Facebook or over the phone or anything, because I know I'm being, you know, we know we hear our phones clicking constantly, and we know they're listening to us. And we know that we're being affected, and I know I'm getting hacked, and I know that half my house was fried 2 months after I started doing this, and this has cost me a fortune. I mean, oh man, the money I put to this just to inform people, but I feel they have the right to know. So newbies, and I apologize for the term, but that's the best way to bring it up fast.
Yeah, they can't see much.
If you're new to this subject, you have to learn the facts, not the hype, not the space people and the orbs and the ghosts and the spirit and the pictures and the faces in the sky and somebody looking through a fishbowl or whatever. None of that. Well, some of that could be true. That's not what we do. We don't go there. We deal with facts. We deal with stuff that we can match over and over again. And if I see something and I got an idea about it, I don't talk about it until I've had 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or 20 or 30 pictures come in where I can understand what it is that I'm, because, you know, I hate embarrassing myself. I hate it. And I'm not going to embarrass myself. I'm going to do this the best I can and give it to everybody for free. Don't buy a T-shirt, you know, if you even get it. You know, I know a lot of people that mailed out money for T-shirts and they've never, ever gotten them, me included. You know, I was supposed to get a freebie. I never got my T-shirt, by the way. If you're out there listening, you ought to mail me one.
He's talking to you, Steve.
You know, I was trying to avoid that, but thank you.
Well, I think a big thing is when people are watching this video, if you've noticed, we don't post a lot of pictures with the sun in it. The sun is just going to ruin your photo. Any direct sunlight hitting the lens or the camera, the housing, or any of the lens system is going to ruin your
small picture either. Pan it out. I mean, if you're going to put the sun in there, give us the whole sky.
Yeah, and don't crop your flares and post them.
Right. Oh yeah. I post them, and then there's been a couple of people, and I love their effort. I really love their effort. But I had a guy one time send me a file with 100 pictures of lens flares. And I sat there and went through about 50 of them, and I finally just said, that's it, gone. You know, I mean, dude, you're getting dust refractions and lens flares, and you think you're capturing the planet.
Well, that's because that's what Steve told him.
Yeah, I know. And we spent years trying to get rid of this disinformation.
Shade the lens.
You know, my favorite one is Planet X, and that's just one planet.
Yeah.
And
everything's Nibiru.
You know, we know there are 8 planets to the second half of our binary solar system. And we're a compound in space. We're not just rocks floating around willy-nilly. There is a structure to this. We are a stable compound that gets semi-unstable when other things are introduced, but then it restabilizes itself every 3,654 years with static discharge, and it reboots all of the stuff, and everything re-centralizes back into the compound, that which it is. And it also ups the supply of the commodities that which we provide for the demigods. Anyway, back to the pictures. I'm going to move on to the next picture. This is a picture that everybody's been recently citing, and I've seen numerous ones. Oh, the second sun. And they don't stop to look at the illumination. This is a sun. This is a side-illuminated planet, and we believe it to be the moon of Atu prior to it coming over to the left-hand side. Now, this vertical shaft is what I was talking about with the tool star. It puts off a vertical blue, ultraviolet blue, or purple shaft, which says somewhere in this proximity of this picture, it's an overhead circular picture, there is the tool star is showing, because that's an ultraviolet shaft of light. Now, I'm not sure if this other round here is a planet, because in a lot of these pictures, it could be water rings on the upward-facing camera, and I'd like people to take that into account. This could be dust, but I doubt it. These are probably asteroids coming off the object cluster group, which we know to be passing, and if you look right here, there's sort of an angular swell of it with the little objects inside, etc. Now, we know this sucker's getting closer and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're heading toward, on this file, we'll have some more pictures of the object cluster group. The object cluster group was announced by NASA as the Asteroid Pack not 2 days ago. They say that they've observed an asteroid pack. Well, we've been, at Montana Skywatchers, we've been watching the object cluster group for almost 4.5 years. We've got multiple pictures of it. We've seen the body count, if you want to call it that. We've seen their placement. We've seen their location. We've seen them discharge. We believe that even one of the objects may have hit Jupiter last year sometime, because the next time it came around, the lineup had been changed. It's like something had crashed into another planet and everything else had changed. Now, we've heard discussions about other things exploding in space. Well, it's entirely possible that these things are hitting that or causing other explosions. Therefore, I'm not going into the hype that other people are announcing. And because a lot of this crazy stuff that these people are talking about is just so far-fetched, and it makes people look inward instead of out, and it makes people understand less instead of more. And it's driving me bonkers. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Yeah, I get bonkers all too easy. This is also a picture from this week. Here we see the vertical drag-off cloud, which is sometimes spread so far across the sky you can't see anything up again. Here we have Atu. Here we have the object cluster group. Now, this white cloud here has been filmed for the last week, and we've seen it in Sweden, we've seen it in France, we've seen it in the United States, and it's the same damn cloud. So therefore, I'm thinking that this is possibly Atu's moon or lead object separate and getting very darn close. Now, it's not for sure, because the moon could be over here or it could be over there, because here's the vertical pull-off cloud off of that, and another one off the bottom of that, too. And its moon does put some vertical clouds up, and we've got numerous pictures going back 2, 3, 4 years. But these sure, and here it looks like that face, because we've seen them, one of the lead objects look like a skull. And I don't know if you're going to insert any pictures into this.
Oh, I'm inserting while you go, man.
Oh, okay. Inserting while we go. Fantastic. You're just so efficient. Thank you very much. And I want to publicly, thank James Klingler, because he is doing a phenomenal job. He's doing this for free. He does all my videos. We talk daily, if not 2 or 3 times a day. And he works into the night to get all of this stuff out for you guys. And I do that too. I'm spending my nights talking to people even though I'm trying to sleep. And I'm spending my days talking to people even though I'm trying to do my housework and laundry and take care of my kids and everything. And so we're working our butts off to get this information to you so everybody will get on the same page, and so we can stop the hype, so we can move forward in the observation, so everybody, including science, will grab hold of this and say, hey, look, this is real. Because this is real. We're not guessing. We've got upward of 1 million pictures proving this over the years. And I want to thank my, Montana Skywatchers 1 and 2, and Waysayer Indigos and Cloud Cloaks and all, and Nibiru Ascending and Nibiru Countdown, and all those guys that are really searching for this. I mean, they're searching. They want to know. And the new folks, I can understand it's really difficult to get hold of good information because you don't know who to trust and who to listen to. But I'm a former insider. I'm doing this at extreme risk, but I'm doing it because it's damn important. Anyway, let's move on to the next picture. All right, here's an older picture. This is Uri. This is a flare, Voekeling flare, cutting off the sun, and you can see it's reaching around the planet. There are little circular objects here. It's probably the object cluster group again, and you're seeing the directional. Up here is Atu. You can see the shadowing, and here again is Atu's moon with the drag-off clouds between. A drag-off instead of the vertical. Of course, the vertical with this picture was taller, which would be showing the vertical cloud here. But it matches time and time and time again.
You can see the Z.
And this is entirely possibly Nibiru right here. Now, I can't remember the date of this picture, but it's always been one of my favorites because you could see the stripes of Uri in it so predominantly. And if you can get out that old close pass horizontal picture of Uri and slap it up here next to this in one corner or another, you can see that on the major upper third of Uri, there's a major dark cloud, and here again, we're matching. And these clouds do produce these planets produce clouds in space as they pass because the movement is causing chemistry to work together and mix and join, and this is like the suspicious observer then discusses space water. And I think there's a great deal to do with why Bolivia and Peru and Brazil are flooding their butts off right now, and it's raining like a son of a gun last couple of days in Ireland and numerous other countries. I mean, I could stand here and list off about 18 different countries that are flooding right now. And we can talk about all the major earthquakes that are going off because we have come around into the out of the buffer zone where the quakes and the planetary alignments are going to start causing major earthquakes, and coronal holes are going to cause major earthquakes and all of that. Anyway, moving on to the next picture. This is another picture of what happened a week or so ago, someplace where you've got cargo containers. Excuse me, we've got the bottom part of Atu coming again. There's the drag-off cloud again, backward of Uri behind that, and these major storms come in, and they just do some serious damage. I don't know if they're done for the next week or two, but they will be back. They come in cycles. It's like a week on our side of the planet, and then it's a week on the other side of the planet, and that may have changed. It might have gone 2 weeks on our side, 2 weeks on theirs. But we can see the wobble in the Earth. Watch the weather. You'll have catastrophes in Europe, and then we'll have a calm week over here. We'll have catastrophes in North America, and they'll have a calm week over there. And it's showing these patterns, and that, of course, is what I was partially recruited for, was because I can see pattern identification. Because I was listed as, by the U.S. government as having a 186 IQ. I'm not trying to brag because I never really believed that it was much different than the rest of the world, although I'm finding out different. And I'm very skilled at what I do, and I believe in what I'm doing. And you can ask anybody that knows me about my accuracy rate, and I've been doing this for 7 years, and you've been doing this for a lot of years, and I think we got it going. Anyway, I want to move on. And I'm trying to get the new folks to really jump on board here, because we're not kidding and we're not guessing. This is an older pic of the last time that Atu and Uri came in. And up over here, of course, is Moon again. And you see these wavy, blistery, bumbly, self-illuminated clouds with the purple showing again. And the green in the background from another direct relationship to the sky color. It has a lot to do with the passing planets that are nearby and where they are. Next picture. Here's another one. This is literally the bottom of Uri, although Atu is probably over here to the left, because we're seeing purple. But this is the bubbly clouds of an atmosphere around another planet. Ours are down here. These are our atmosphere. These are our clouds. You can see even over here, the top of the cumulus nimbus, which is usually the top of the sky. So therefore, all of these cumulus clouds, because they're not cumulus nimbus, but they're cumulus, they signify moisture, and they're up there. That's the spatially illuminated planet. And look, you can see the cutoff of the shadow line. Dark over here, light over there. Illuminated side of this planet, darker side over here. The light travels through the atmosphere and will go around the planet. Next picture. Here's another example, the bottom of Uri. You can see it's sort of a tucked, semi-half weighted. It's like a tutu or something. It wears a batch of clouds, and I got some really cool pictures of when Uri first came in 2011, where it was just phenomenal. And you could see the planet round as could be, and right over the top of our horizon, meaning close pass. And that's when I first started understanding the close passes. I didn't believe they could get that close. I didn't believe they could get that big. But over the 7 years, we've learned. Anyway, moving on. Here's another one of your pictures that we got last week or the week before. This is facially illuminated Nepacity, and here, of course, is the object cluster group right in the middle of it. And that is our real sky out there, and these are, the drag-off clouds between Nepacity, and if over here, if we had the larger picture, I would guarantee you'd see Atu at the bottom of this drag-off cloud right here. All right, moving on. This is your picture also in Southern California, and we've got Atu in the crossing. And you had something to say about this, I'm sure.
Oh, I walked outside and I went right back inside to get my camera. I mean, it was really dark. Yeah.
It's a purple thing. I mean, and you show me what out in our skies has ever been purple.
Or brown.
Yeah, or brown, or well, we see a lot of oranges. But anyway, this is Atu, and this is, of course, what they're seeing above Texas, because this is probably 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, and then it moved over in transition from the southwest to northeast pathway that it's been doing, and then it moved over to Texas, and then moved over to the Colorado area, and then moved over to Texas. And that's what they're seeing right over the top of them, and they're wondering why their skies are purple. Well, that's exactly why. You're seeing a refraction of the base of Atu. Okay, here's another one. I'm not sure if this is an old Saturn picture or a current recent Atu picture, but I use this to show size and the fact that there are visible objects out in, even at chemtrail level, down at sea level, there's something there. And all you have to do is keep looking for these somethings that are just, if it's weird looking, it's a planet. Moving on. Okay, right here we've got, and thank you for the date, and thank you whoever took this picture, although I cannot remember. I really appreciate it, and you can let me know if it's yours. In the future, if you guys have pictures you want credit for, and the date really, really helps, because that keeps it, and we can, tell what we're looking at, and it adds to orbitation and all that. Put your name on these pictures, and because I don't even take my own pictures anymore because I keep buying cameras. But it's very important that the members add the pictures, and I appreciate it, and you guys deserve most of the credit for all of this. I'm just the guy in the middle that puts this all together. It's you guys' work from around the world. Oh, and by the way, I have to say, hey, pies and cakes, I hear you out there. I've been trying to get hold of you. I can't. I know people in Australia have been calling me at my home phone number, and they've been told that my phone is disconnected. Well, the Australian police got hold of me about 3 years ago over a family intervention that was calling me a cult leader. And I'm not a cult leader because I'm not asking you to move here and give me all your possessions or any of that stuff.
But that would be nice.
Excuse me?
I said, but that would be nice.
Yeah, well, so I got in trouble. I got 3 different phone calls from the Australian Federal Police. And
stop hustling
I
our
don't know
people.
what that was all about. And I kind of laughed, and they told me I was in a bunch of trouble, and I laughed at them again. And so apparently I'm blocked in Australia. You can't call me on the phone. Although I do want to say hi to Pies and Cakes, and I want to say hi to everybody out there that's doing a really good job. Because there's so many people out here doing this. It's phenomenal. Yay! But let's stick to the facts, please, 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 please. Because I'm spending most of my time wading through the disinformation, and now I don't have the time I need to gather the photographs and analyze them and talk to people and return their messages and everything else. So anyway, my kids are getting up, so I need to move on with this. On to the next picture. All right, this is the rainbow hue illumination. This is the object cluster group, and it's debris that is causing this. A lot of people are citing the rainbow. It's usually on the left-hand side of the sun. We have AT2 up here coming in, and it's probably, whoops, I'm going to click myself into trouble again. We see the object cluster group right here again. This could be some of this over here. But these anomalies are reoccurring, and we've seen the red in the sky. This could be a Saturn right here. It's been sighted depending on where you are, over the sun, and sometimes beside the sun, and sometimes I saw 2 yesterday where it had moved over to the right-hand side. And the illuminating yellow moon is Saturn, which is a facial moon, and it's a molten thing that puts out this iron-split tail, which is not Winged Planet Nibiru, more internet disinfo. But anyway, moving on. This is from my friend Mark. Forgive me for saying it. His last name is like Kunis, and he's in Ireland. And I got this a few days ago or a week ago from him, and he was talking about getting rained on big time. I believe this to be, being that the cloud looks the way it does, I believe this to be Atu and Uri. Like Atu is up here in the dark purple area, and this would be Uri because it has the tutu-like base cloud. And this, of course, over here could be Necessity or Object Cluster Group right there. And, of course, we know the Object Cluster Group is always right there. Anyway, moving on. All right, here's another picture that is a couple of days old, and it's February 18th. And we believe either this to be Atu and this Uri, or this is Atu's moon, and this is Atu here on the crossover. And obviously it's in a mountainous terrain area, and it could be Southern California or Arizona or Colorado, that kind of area.
Florida.
Those kind of they don't have these mountains.
It says Marathon, Florida.
Oh, Marathon. You said, duh. All I have to do is read. Here I'm guessing, and it's just, and I'm, not breaking sweat because I'm full of shit. I didn't know they had my. What is this? Is it a mountain? What the heck is this blue thing over here? That's weird. If that's not a mountain, does Florida have mountains? I don't think.
Of course they do.
Do they?
Sure.
The only time I saw much of Florida was from my motel room, and I was there for a couple of days, and I was up in the northern Kissimmee area, and I didn't get to see much. Obviously, I was only there for about 3 days and flew right out.
I would imagine the handle has mountains.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. Thank you. I'll have to actually go and get Google and go out and do some studying. I thought it was pretty much a flatline country. Anyway, moving on. This is an older picture of Atu, when Atu was first being bottom crescent illuminated. And that's a planet. You can see the rainbow refraction in the atmosphere around the planet. And I did that on purpose because I also saw right here we have object cluster group coming in at the harder angle like it used to, which shows it's an older picture. And it matches. Yeah. Okay, here is the magnetosphere pictures recently. Everybody's been freaking out that there's something going on in the magnetosphere. And if you notice the red band, that is the wake of the coronal mass ejected material hitting the outside electrical part of the Earth. And here we've got red bands going on inside. Well, to me, this is an object behind Earth, enveloped in the wake eddy. And that's what the black lines are showing us. And that's what this magnetosphere waiver of these other blue lines shows, that something is there, just like our something is. So there's objects behind Earth. That proves proximity. You can't argue with it. There's something there. And I've got 8 or 10 different ones showing all kinds of different patterns with objects getting closer and closer and closer and closer, which would signify Passover. Here is the object cluster group in its rainbow beauty. As you can see, there's an object in front. Lead object is no longer a lead object. Some of the littler ones have snuck past it. If we were to see this in a larger picture, I guarantee there'd be 3 or 4 up here as well. But there's a couple, lead object, other one, another one behind it, et cetera, et cetera. And this is one of the better close-ups that we've seen in a long time. Here is the original close-up that we got about 3 years ago. And you hear me talking about the three stripes and the flip tail. This is the lead object of the object cluster group. And here's some of the little brothers and sisters. And there's that face again, the one that everybody thinks is the skull. It's really weird. That face always shows up.
Yeah, I got it up right now.
Yeah, and here's the object cluster group again. And here's the round lead object with the stripes and the little flip. And then right up here is the face. The skull again of that object, and you know, spooky stuff. And this, of course, is a couple of months old, and this is another part of the object cluster group here, because they've broken off. We counted 2, and in the last week or so, we're seeing 4 with 3 layers above it. So that means there's a whole bunch of stuff coming in, and we may get pasted. Now, if you look back through history, 3,650 some odd years ago, what happened? And that is where the disruption of earthquakes and massive volcanoes wiping out Greece and the Mycenaean era and the beginning of the Bronze Age. And if you go back 2 cycles, you can see that representative in different land masses changing and all sorts of other stuff. So we're coming into an excruciatingly devastating time. Now, it could be when the planets leave, or it could be when these guys keep passing us and getting really damn close, or it could be these objects pasting the crap out of us. Because the Earth has to break up, because we need redistribution of the commodities. Now, I've even heard reports coming from California the other day where with all these rain, everybody's finding gold everywhere because it's just been washed up. All this massive amounts of dirt and stuff being moved by the rain, and this is how we reproduce our commodity base. And if you look up here, we got light blue of Ceres in the background, and way down in the bottom is the yellow of our real sky. A yellow dwarf and a red dwarf have a tendency to make a yellow sky. Anyway, moving on. That's just dropping a little hint bomb there. All right, here's the electrical discharge. This thing is many months old from last summer. Here is the illuminated moon of Attu. If you look at Attu's right there with the little stripes. And this is the entire object cluster group discharging electrically. If we were to look over to the rest of the picture, we'd probably be discharging off the Earth as well. But this is a discharge of the object cluster group. And when those suckers come in, I saw them go over Montana last fall. Spookiest storm I've ever seen in my entire life. The loudest thunder I've ever heard, because it echoed for literally 45, 50 seconds after the lightning strike. The echoing was bouncing around the mountains in ways I've never heard it before. So I knew that it was way, way up above in order to create that kind of echo, 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 echo. And it was unbelievable. Usually up here you'll hear 3 echoes. This thing just kept going and going and going. And so I knew. And plus it was a centralized, the lightning was all coming out of one spot as it passed. So I knew it was the object cluster group coming over. Now I've had other people ask me about the space sprites they've been capturing lately. They're not sprites. They're illuminated asteroids that are discharging electrically off the ionized outer band of Earth. And sprites probably are that. They're probably dust particles that are coming in electrically discharging. Here's a picture that we talked about. This is not the sun. The sun is on the opposite side. I'll let you go ahead.
Oh yeah, this is actually a sunrise cam that faces southeast. The sun is setting off far over to off your right shoulder, past that little arrow there on the picture. So this is at sunset, looking east.
Excuse me. And of course, we're having a facial illumination of a planet that is behind Earth, and that's why they're lighting up. We're starting to see them. The show is beginning now. The really cool part is about to really start happening. We should, at any given day, see entirely bright, illuminated, huge planets next to Earth. So, and you know, you can check my track record out there, all you folks who are trying to discover what's going on. And if I'm telling you the truth, that my accuracy rate is really high, not like people who are guessing. But anyway, moving on. And again, everybody, thank you for your pictures. Here is the momentous, bubbly bottom of Attu and the ion drag-off cloud of Attu and Nepesi in the object cluster group, and you can see movement through. And these are massive momentous clouds. They're not the little ones that drop hail, although the storm is dropping baseball-size hail up in Minnesota. And then in Illinois, I got pictures from Sharon Harvick this morning, where she's showing a baseball in one hand and a big chunk of hail on the other. And this is directly from those. These things are up there, way, 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 way up there, and they're coming in off another planet onto us. Moving on. There's more of the rainbow illumination of the bottom of a planet, because it's got particulate and particles, and this could be Attu here, and this could be here, and the object cluster group is showing, because the object cluster group has got a ton of debris, not only large objects, but small objects, we've captured close-up pictures where the larger objects look like obsidian towers, mountains of glass. And I don't remember where all those pictures ended up, but we have them. And this is, everybody's seen that illumination. When you see an illumination of rainbow hue and it looks really weird, excuse me, even next to the sun, I guarantee you most of the time it's going to be on the left-hand side, and if you're looking at it, you're looking through a refracted debris, because light does not exist in space until it has something to hit and refract and break down upon. And we're seeing the rainbow illumination because it's going through the gases, the particulate, the matter, the debris, and the larger groups of the object cluster group / asteroid pack. So here's another one. This could be right here where you see in the orange. That could be the size of the planet, the central focal length of the sunlight showing through the atmosphere of the object cluster group and whatever this is most likely at to and Erie. Moving to the next picture. Here's another example. We're seeing the bottom of a major overhaul planet, and it's most likely Nepesi from the size and location. And this is the object cluster group coming in underneath Nepesi. This could even be an older picture. I don't have any idea of the age of it. I just got this off the internet the other day and was unable to speak to its photographer. And thank you for using it, whomever. I'm using it for scientific comparisons. I will not sell a T-shirt on the front of it, nor bed sheets or pillowcases. That's another sign to somebody else, and they know who they are. I'm sorry. I'm just being bombarded by these people who are filling out. They're making 10 times the work than we need, because everybody comes to me and says, well, ask Sam. And it's like, God, I would love to be able to give you everything, but I can't get to everyone, even though I try. I do try. If you can't get hold of me the first time, keep trying. And if you need a phone number, you want to talk to me on the phone, I'll even give that out for a private message. By the way, 876-5309?
Yeah, 867-5309.
Okay, yeah, you stuck that on our last video, and I thought about it later, and I thought, what if somebody actually tries to dial that? And they don't know
you know, whose phone number is that?
867-5309. I remember it now. It's from an old song. I can't remember the name of the song, but it is from a song. Anyway, this one we've got. I believe the sunset is behind the tree here, and I think we're seeing an oranging off of the Saturn. I think we're seeing the side of Uri here, the bottom of Saru. I'm not sure, because if you look here, these are fingers like Saru's base cloud. And if this is Uri, this would have to be Saru, and Nepesi would have to be way over on the other side. And, of course, because they always fit the same pattern. And it's a little weird once in a while, because sometimes people take shots from different areas of the world that I'm not familiar with the odd. You know, it's like trying to deal with Australia pictures. It's a little bit different, and it's really hard to figure out. Okay, we're back to the beginning. Yay. Got to do a video. I hope this copy comes out.
It will.
And I'd like to say aloha from tropical Montana to everybody, and keep those cards and letters coming. No, keep the pictures coming. And if you really want credit for it, please put the date and your name on it, and that will really help us all. And then we'll be able to get your work and your efforts promotionalized. And, I wish I could send everybody a nickel, but I'm kind of a poor guy. So, I'm definitely computer poor, because I've invested in 10 of them. And I don't do the phone, because I fry them when I touch a cell phone. You don't hand me your cell phone ever. It won't work when you get it back. I've got funky body electricity, and that has to do with who and what I am. And for those of you who want to know that...
Well, we'll catch you next time on What's That in the Sky with Sam Hofman and James Klingler. Aloha from both of us. And we're out.
I'll explain what I mean by the aloha from tropical Montana. I really will.
Well, that's the banana belt.
Right. And we right now we've been freezing our butts off, but nothing like it used to be. I mean, in February we're usually 20 to 40 below, and right now it's nice outside.
It's pretty sunny outside and windy for me.
And weird stuff is growing in Louisiana, and they got bugs already, and the summer is 3 months early, and temperatures. Oh, and like I said earlier, Antarctica is going to be 63 degrees today.
Yeah, and they only got about 10 miles left of that shelf before it falls off.
Yeah, you tell me that's normal. I bet you they're all down there trying to watch all the stuff that's melting up out of the iceberg. Well, they're probably finding lost civilizations and all sorts of stuff and watching the planets pass, because there's no chemtrail down there.
Oh, you know for a fact that they've already dug up most of the stuff out there.
Well, maybe there's more.
All right, we're out. Hey everybody, this is James back at What's That in the Sky with Sam Hofman again, having a good sit down. We're going to try this again because obviously I screwed up the first recording, so we're going to do this one more time.
Yeah, hi, welcome to version 2 of this show. Good morning, everybody out there in YouTube and Facebook land, and I hope this comes out sound-wise because we're trying a little new technology, and me and my old computers, my Stone Age computer skills, and we're trying to get together so we can help everybody get on the same page. And you're looking at a picture I got this morning from Sierra Lord and in Washington State, and I believe this is right off the coast of Washington State, and we're looking at the bottom of Attu, and I believe Nepacity behind that because it's currently on the left-hand side of the sun. And we know for the last 2 weeks or so that Attu has been moving from what used to be on the right-hand side and is now moving over to the our left in a over the top of us view, literally like Attu is coming up from behind us nowadays. And it's a little bit of a screwy thing. It's really hard to keep the orientation of how these things are working going straight in our head, especially since recently there's been a whole bunch of really fast changes. We're moving in a manner that's much faster than any of the earlier transitions of the last few years. I'd like to point out that the Nibiru planets have been within proximity of Earth many times, and they pass by Earth very close passes, at least 3 to 4 times since the onset of Nibiru in 2012 and the actual original arrival of the beginning planets in 2010. Now, we're looking at an open core cloud here at the bottom. That is a base cloud scenario where I suggest that if you don't know what I'm talking about, we've got some hand drawings of the base clouds of the Nibiru 6 and the 7th one, of course, 7th one we don't have because that's Nibiru, which is the large, massive body gas giant behind the 2 suns. And in our first show, I spent a long time describing that, and I'm not sure if I want to go there again yet or not. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So we're looking at the bottom of incoming Attu. Now, everybody across the planet is seeing this. They're seeing this in Australia. They're seeing it in Europe. But currently, the close pass is going over the North American continent. And that's been a lot of the weather that they're seeing on the East Coast and from Texas all the way on up through Minnesota over the last few days. And the tornadoes and everything. And I really need to stress, and this is part of why we're doing this today, we want to give everybody a heads up and say there's some really serious weather coming. Now, hopefully tonight and everything, there won't be a lot of people that lose their homes and deaths or anything like that. But that's what we've seen the last couple of days. And we've seen that they're not telling us the truth on the Fujita scale. They're not telling us the truth on these wind speeds. And these tornadoes that are going through are drawn-out tornadoes. They're not the short standard tornado that can last anywhere from 30 seconds to, up most of a half hour or so, because most tornadoes don't last that long. And what's going across the skies here is this event underneath the passing planets. The wake eddy is affecting our atmosphere and dragging all of this crap through and past us. And we've had numerous examples of evidence that show that this is, yes, true, it is following through with that which we are seeing. So it has to be what it is. And we're getting proof, because we're not trying to guess here. We're trying to make sure that we know what the heck we're talking about. And we're not trying to get membership and cause a bunch of hype and fear, but damn it, we really need to pay attention to this because this is really serious. So I'm going to move over to the next picture right away here, and we'll go from here. All right, we've got the majorly massive, momentous, bubbly clouds. A lot of people say, well, this is just a storm that's got hail. Well, no, these are giant storms. And this is the bottom of Attu. And if you look off in the distance where I've got the pointer going here, we've got the open, illuminated pole. Even though the sun is down, it's illuminating on the bottom of Nepacity. And now we've seen this illuminated open pole for many years, so we know that this is the illuminated Nepacity. All right, moving to the next picture. Here is what we've been noticing in the last few weeks is a facial illumination of the planets, because this is, of course, it's probably a sunset picture, but this area is being illuminated, and we see the object cluster group coming in here on the side, and we've got right here this little white object in the circle is the moon of Attu. Now, if you look here, you can see the side of Attu coming in, and this is a facial illumination of this group of clouds, and it's entirely possible that this right there is Uri. What were you saying?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, I just heard something. I thought maybe. Okay, so we're seeing the evidence that the planets are passing us. Now, prior to this, we only saw the back side of them, so we're seeing only the dark sides of the planets, and we would only see their illumination visible in the sunset scenarios, where we would see the dark object on either side of the sun with cut-off refractions and flares, etc. But now, within the last 2 weeks or so, they're passing, or Earth is transitioning in a hard banking turn. So the angle of the sunlight is now shining on the face of these planets, and as we turn, we get to see them. And so now the beginning of the great show of Nibiru passing planets is now really up and kicking, especially for those new folks out there. We've been watching this group of planets, and I'm not guessing here because we've had member pictures coming from around the world for over 7 years. We've had upward of 1 million pictures, 1 million real captures, and I'm not talking just clouds that we think is this and we think is that. We've got absolute pictures with no clouds whatsoever, no flares whatsoever, and time after time matching pictures of the planets getting closer and closer and closer. And we've stockpiled a good portion of these pictures, but a good portion over time has also been lost because I've had to replace 10 computers. And sadly, I don't have a bunch of money to shell out for retrieving those photos from the hard drives. And some of the hard drives are actually blank and dead and killed because I've been hacked over and over again. Anyway, enough of the complaining. Moving on to the next picture.
Okay.
All right. Here is another example of the object cluster group coming down at its hard angle, this notable shadowing between object here, object there, and the vertical drag-off cloud